turned me down because of my pre-existing condition. So he put me in a company with an insurance company or carrier that basically
Washington Journal airs live every morning starting at 7 Eastern here on C-SPAN. We're going live to the House. Members will vote on measures debated earlier.
By the yeas and nays. H.R. 3588 by the yeas and nays. And agreeing to the Speaker approval of the Journal de novo, the first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Smith, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 3547, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 3547, a bill to extend the application of certain space launch liability provisions through 2014.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
These are the first votes in the House after the Thanksgiving break. The Senate has another week left in its recess. Before the end of the year, the two chambers are scheduled to both be in session only 1 week, and that's next week. House and Senate negotiators are still trying to reach compromises on a fiscal 2014 budget plan, the Farm Bill, and water resources legislation. Here's more about what to expect. Eric Cantor also wants to advance a pediatric medical research bill before the Christmas recess, but is facing sustained resistance from conservatives who want to use the money for deficit reduction. We're going to hear that interview now on what's ahead over the next couple of weeks. The House is voting now on a bill that extends for 1 year a program where the Transportation Department helps pay claims for damage, loss, or injury dealing with the space launch. Summary in Congressional Quarterly says that the Government Accountability Office released a study that found that the government's indemnification against third-party claims may have the effect of making American launch companies more competitive in the global market. Also writing that if the government ended this indemnification, insurance costs for launch companies could increase, thus driving up their overall prices. Yesterday was World AIDS Day. President Obama announced a new initiative today to find a cure for HIV/AIDS. We're going to watch that as this vote continues.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Everybody, please have a seat. Well, thank you, Grant, for your outstanding leadership of the Office's National AIDS Policy, and thanks to all of you for being here. This is a pretty distinguished crowd, I have to say, and it is wonderful to be here. I should say, actually, welcome back, because many of you have joined us before as we've marked new milestones in our fight against HIV and AIDS, and I'm honored that you could join us in commemorating World AIDS Day, which was yesterday. And this is a time for remembering the friends and loved ones that we've lost, celebrating the extraordinary progress, thanks to some people in this room, that we've been able to make, and most importantly, recommitting ourselves to the mission that we share, which is achieving an AIDS-free generation. I especially want to welcome ministers from our partner countries, members of my administration, including Secretary Sebelius, Secretary John Kerry, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Mark Dybul from the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, and we've also got here Francis Collins from the National Institutes of Health, Michel Sidibe from UNAIDS, Deborah Van Zinkernagel, who's carrying on the great work of Eric Goosby as our acting Global AIDS Coordinator, and our many friends from the philanthropic world, including Bill Gates. So thank you all for joining us here today. Now, every year, this is a moment to reflect on how far we've come since the early days of the AIDS epidemic. And those of you who lived through it remember all too well the fear and the stigma, and how hard people with HIV had to fight to be seen or heard or to be treated with basic compassion. And you remember how little we knew about how to prevent AIDS or how to treat it. What we did know was the devastation that it inflicted, striking down vibrant men and women in the prime of their lives and spreading from city to city and country to country seemingly overnight. Today, that picture is transformed. Thanks to the courage and love of so many of you in this room and around the world, awareness has soared. Research has surged. Prevention, treatment, and care are now saving millions of lives, not only in the world's richest countries, but in some of the world's poorest countries as well. And for many, with testing and access to the right treatment, the disease that was once a death sentence now comes with a good chance of a healthy and productive life. And that's an extraordinary achievement. As President, I've told you that in this fight you'll have a partner in me, and I said that if the United States wanted to be the global leader in combating this disease, then we needed to act like it, by doing our part and by leading the world to do more together. And that's what we've done in partnership with so many of you. We've created the first comprehensive national HIV/AIDS strategy, rooted in a simple vision, that every person should get access to life-extending care, regardless of age or gender, race or ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. We've continued to support the Ryan White CARE Act to help undeserved communities, and we lifted the entry ban so that people with HIV are no longer barred from the United States, which led to the International AIDS Conference being held here last year for the very first time in over 20 years. This summer, I issued an executive order creating the HIV Care Continuum Initiative to boost our federal efforts to prevent and treat HIV. Last month, I signed the HIV Organ Policy Equity Act to finally allow research into organ donations between people with HIV, a step achieved with bipartisan support. And thanks to the Affordable Care Act, millions of insured Americans will be able to get tested free of charge. Americans who are uninsured will now be able to have access to affordable health care coverage. And beginning in January, no American will be again denied health insurance because of their HIV status. You know, on World AIDS Day 2 years ago, I announced an additional $35 million for the AIDS Drug Assistance Program, which helped people pay for life-saving medications. At one time, the need was so great that over 9,000 people were on the wait list. We vowed to get those numbers down, and I'm proud to announce that, as of last week, we have cleared that wait list. We are down to 0, and we're going to keep working to get it down. So we're making progress, but we're all here today because we know how much work remains to be done. Here in the United States, we need to keep focusing on investments to communities that are still being hit hardest, including gay and bisexual men, African Americans, and Latinos. We need to keep up the fight in our cities, including Washington, D.C., which in recent years has reduced diagnosed infections by nearly half. And we're going to keep pursuing scientific breakthroughs. Today, I'm pleased to announce a new initiative at the National Institutes of Health to advance research into an HIV cure. We're going to redirect $100 million into this project to develop a new generation of therapies. Because the United States should be at the forefront of new discoveries into how to put HIV into long-term remission without requiring lifelong therapies, or better yet, eliminate it completely. And of course, this fight extends far beyond our borders. And when I became president, I inherited President Bush's phenomenal program, PEPFAR, which has helped millions around the world receive life-saving treatment. And we haven't just sustained those efforts, we've expanded them, reaching and serving even more people, especially mothers and children. Earlier this year, PEPFAR reached a wonderful milestone, the 1 millionth baby born without HIV. And that alongside the rapid decline in new HIV infections and deaths from AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa. On my visit to South Africa this year, I visited a clinic run by Bishop Desmond Tutu and had the honor of spending time with some of their extraordinary young patients and counselors and outreach workers and doctors. Every day they are doing extraordinary work, and when you visit this facility, you cannot help but be inspired by what they do each and every day. In part thanks to the support of the United States of America. They're saving lives, and they're changing the way their country and the world approaches this disease. And that's work that we have to continue to advance. On World AIDS Day 2 years ago, I set new prevention and treatment targets for PEPFAR, like increasing the number of mothers we reach so that we prevent their children from becoming infected, and helping 6 million people get treatment by the end of 2013. Today, I'm proud to announce that we've not only reached our goal, we've exceeded our treatment target. So we've helped 6.7 million people receive life-saving treatment, and we're going to keep at it. Which is why, after I leave here today, I'll be proud to sign the PEPFAR Stewardship and Oversight Act to keep this program going strong. Count on the legislator to applaud legislation. Now, looking ahead, it's time for the world to come together to set new goals. Right now, we're working hard to get a permanent leader in place at PEPFAR, and once we do, one of our first items of business will be convening a meeting early next year so the United States and our partners worldwide, including governments, the Global Fund, the UN AIDS, and civil society, can sit around one table and develop joint HIV prevention and treatment goals for the countries where we and the Global Fund do business. We'll hold each other accountable, and we'll continue to work to turn the tide of this epidemic together. And that includes keeping up our support for the Global Fund. You know, its success speaks for itself. It's helping over 6 million people in over 140 countries receive antiretroviral therapy. And now it's time to replenish the fund. The United States will contribute $1 for every $2 pledged by other donors over the next 3 years. up to $5 billion total from the United States. And the United Kingdom has made a similar promise. So today I want to urge all those who are attending the Global Fund's replenishment meetings, both today and tomorrow, to take up this commitment. Don't leave our money on the table. It's been inspiring to see the countries most affected by this disease vastly increase their own contributions to this fight, in some cases providing more than donor countries do. And that ought to inspire all of us to give more and to do more so we can save more lives. After all, none of the progress we've made against AIDS could have been achieved by a single government or foundation or corporation working alone. It's the result of countless people, including so many of you, working together from countries large and small, philanthropies, universities, media, civil society, activists. More than anything, I think it's thanks to the courageous people living with HIV around the world who've shared their stories. You've let your strength, demanded your dignity be recognized, and led the fight to spare others the anguish of this disease. We can't change the past or undo its wrenching pain, but what we can do and what we have to do is to chart a different future, guided by our love for those we couldn't save. That allows us to do everything we can, everything in our power to save those that we can. And that's my commitment to you as President. The United States of America will remain the global leader in the fight against HIV and AIDS. We will stand with you every step of this journey until we reach the day that we know is possible, when all men and women can protect themselves from infection, a day when all people with HIV have access to the treatments that extend their lives, the day when there are no babies being born with HIV or AIDS, and when we achieve at long last what was once hard to imagine, and that's an AIDS-free generation. That's the world I want for my daughters. That's the world that all of us want for our families. And if we stay focused, if we keep fighting, and if we honor the memory of those that we've lost, if we summon the same courage that they displayed by insisting on whatever it takes, however long it takes, I believe we're going to win this fight. And I'm confident that we'll do so together. So thank you very much for your extraordinary efforts. Appreciate it. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Good work.
The Hill writes that the House could act on a flurry of bipartisan deals in the final 2 weeks of legislative business this year, or could head home for the holidays empty-handed. The negotiators are trying to finish House-Senate conference reports on the budget, a farm bill, and a water projects bill before the end of the year. Aides say there's a slim chance that all three could be done in time for the House to vote in 2013. But a likelier scenario is one or two of them will be punted into next year. Here's more about what's on the congressional agenda.
Congress returns from their Thanksgiving recess with just 2 more weeks on the legislative calendar until the year-end break. Joining me to talk about what we might see in the remaining days is Russell Berman of the Hill. Russell, what key legislation are members hoping to consider before they head out for the holidays?
Well, there are negotiations on a number of bills that could reach the President's desk before the end of the year. The first one is the Water Resources Reform and Development Act, known as WRDA, a water projects bill. That's the least controversial and probably the most likely to get done in the last 2 weeks of the year.
Well, last we heard about the Farm Bill, members were at odds over cuts to the food stamp program. What's the latest there?
Well, the latest is they're still trying to get to a deal on this $1 trillion 5-year bill. Republicans in the House are more willing to negotiate on the level of cuts if they can get some of the policy provisions that were in the House bill, but it's unclear whether they're going to get to a deal in time.
Members of the Budget Conference Committee that sprang from the government shutdown in October met just before Thanksgiving. Are they anywhere near a deal on a federal budget framework?
We're hearing some optimism that there could be a modest deal that would replace some of the sequestration cuts, and that would likely get done this week or by early next week at the latest, if it's going to get done at all, because they really want to get this done before they leave for the recess and take any threat of a government shutdown out of the picture when they come back in January.
Now, also just before Thanksgiving, Senate Republicans filibustered the Democrats' defense authorization proposal. Where does the House stand on defense authorization, and what are the odds that that will get done before December 13th?
Well, the House passed its version in June, and so they're waiting on the Senate to act. And there's a real time crunch here because they are not quite as far along in the process, and that the Senate has to pass a bill and then it has to be reconciled in some way with the House measure. But what this bill has going for it is that the Congress has passed a Defense Authorization Act for the last 51 straight years, so there's a pretty big streak on the line.
How about a timetable for getting all of this done, and how many of these bills do you think are likely to get done?
Well, given the progress that Congress has made this year as a whole, it's probably right to be pessimistic that more than one or two of them are going to get done in this short amount of time. But the House did just this afternoon add another day to the schedule for next week, which suggests that they are preparing for a busy final week before they head home for the holidays.
Russell Berman is a congressional reporter for The Hill, and we do thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The yeas are 375. The nays are 5. The yeas are 376. The nays are 5. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Johnson, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 3588, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 3588, a bill to amend the Safe Drinking Water Act to exempt fire hydrants from the prohibition on the use of lead pipes, fittings, fixtures, solder, and flux.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? The members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
We just saw members applauding someone. We're not sure who entered the chamber. We'll try to get that to you during this vote. Right now, the House is voting on a bill that includes fire hydrants in the list of plumbing fittings and fixtures that are to be exempt from the lower lead-free content requirements set to go into effect in January. The House is in tomorrow with live coverage here on C-SPAN, and the Senate is not in session tomorrow. So on C-SPAN 2, we'll have live coverage of a House Judiciary Committee hearing looking into whether the President is violating his constitutional and legal duties with the health care law and other issues. That's in the morning at 10 Eastern. At 3 Eastern, a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on the U.S. response to Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. And later on, in the afternoon at 5, also on C-SPAN 2, the lighting of the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree. And as an FYI, Hanukkah is underway, and we covered the lighting of the National Menorah last week, which you can see at cspan.org. At the start of this vote, we saw members clapping and cheering. People who are fasting over immigration legislation came into the House gallery and is watching this vote. The group is called Fast for Families. This vote now continuing in the House, including fire hydrants in the list of plumbing fittings and fixtures that would be exempt from lower lead-free content requirements in a law set to go into effect in January.
The yeas are 384. The nays are 0. Two-thirds being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose? Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal, which the Chair will put de novo. The question is on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the Chair, the ayes have it.
Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Nebraska
ask for
rise?
a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
This last vote of the day is on a record of the previous day's proceedings. Now, the Associated Press writes that on perhaps the busiest online shopping day of the year, the Supreme Court refused to wade into a dispute over state sales taxes for purchases on websites like Amazon.com, an outcome likely to prompt more states to attempt to collect taxes on Internet sales. Joseph Henchman of the Washington-based Tax Foundation said today's court's action means it might be the last Cyber Monday without sales tax.
The yeas, 237. The nays, 126. Present, 1. The journal stands approved. The chair announces the Speaker's appointment pursuant to 2 U.S.C. 501B in the order of the House of January 3, 2013, of the following members to the House Commission on Congressional Mailing Standards.
Mrs. Miller of Michigan, Chairman, Mr. Price of Georgia, and Mr. Latta of Ohio.
The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today I visited Fast for Families, a group of advocates who 21 days ago vowed to abstain from food to bring awareness to the need for a bipartisan remedy for our broken immigration system. Support for the fasters is growing, with groups joining across the country in solidarity. Like many others in the U.S., they want to find a solution for the immigrant families living in this great country that they call home. We can all agree that it is time to modernize our immigration laws. Fixing what is broken will not be an easy task, but it will bring benefits to our nation, which can be strengthened and reinvigorated by those hard-working individuals. I encourage my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to reach across one another, begin a conversation, and resolve this issue. We can work together to secure our borders and honor the rule of law while addressing the problems in our immigration system with solutions that reflect our American principles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
If the gentlewoman would suspend for 1 minute. The chair will remind all persons in the gallery that they are here as guests of the House and that any manifestation of approval or disapproval of proceedings is in violation of the rules of the House. The gentlewoman may proceed.
I thank the gentleman for recognition and understanding the rules of the House. Nonetheless, I would like to say how honored we all are that our special guest, led by Eliseo Medina, are here as part of the Fast for Families. I want to join the distinguished ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, now former chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Congresswoman Ros-Lehtinen, in saying I too visited the Fast for Families, and I fast for immigration, wear the button. I'm so proud that our House of Representatives showed its respect to the strength of the message of our guest here today. Because immigration is about America. It's who we are by and large, a nation of immigrants. It's the constant reinvigoration of our country. Every person who comes here with his or her hopes, dreams, and aspirations for a better future, the optimism for the future, courage to come, to work hard, to play by the rules. That invigorates America, and the tradition of family and community and the rest. Really, every immigrant who comes with those values and those goals makes America more American. I also rise, Mr. Speaker, to talk about a place where immigration and health come together, and I thank President Obama for lifting the travel ban on those affected with HIV. It had been my original intent to seek recognition to talk about World AIDS Day, which we observed yesterday, but wanted to pay my respects to those who are fasting for immigration. Our work on the HIV/AIDS has been a product of bipartisan cooperation in this Congress over a long period of time. In the White House, though, first with President Clinton, we increased the bilateral programs to fight AIDS, and we helped create, authorize, and fund the Global Fund. Then, under the leadership of President Bush, we established PEPFAR and provided the necessary funding to ramp up the emergency response to the crisis. President Obama has strengthened those efforts and boosted our investments by launching the National HIV/AIDS Strategy. In addition to that, President Obama announced that PEPFAR would not only reach its goal of providing treatment for 6 million people by 2013, but will exceed that target by providing 6.7 million people with life-saving treatment. This is a tribute to the leadership of President George W. Bush and to President Obama. True today, President Obama went further and signed the PEPFAR and Global Fund reauthorization bill into law, and I'm proud that President Obama has announced a U.S. commitment of $1 for every $2 provided by other donors, up to $5 billion through 2016. This marks a likely $1 billion increase over previous years. That means more lives saved, the quality of life increased. Our work is far from finished. HIV and AIDS, it's a really resourceful disease. That virus ever mutating, just when you think that we have it in our sights, it changes. And so we have to be resourceful in our approach to the HIV AIDS virus, because we will not allow HIV and AIDS to claim so many lives when we have within our means the science, the prevention, the care, the search for a cure to make a difference. One of the most exciting parts of it is that we will now be able to have an AIDS-free generation of transmittal from mother to child, which is quite a remarkable, among other remarkable aspects of it. But this is a really important issue about our values as a country, our concern for people in our community and globally across the world, which takes us back to the beautiful reception that our fasters for immigration received when they were here earlier. As a mom and as a grandmother, I would encourage them not to fast very much longer, but I want them to know that we all recognize their sacrifice, understand the need to pass comprehensive immigration reform, and hope that that will happen soon. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the 50th anniversary of the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford, which is located in McKean County, Pennsylvania. 50 years ago, Pitt Bradford was a few buildings with just about 300 students. Over the decades, the school has grown from a 2-year feeder campus to a distinguished and thriving 4-year university. Today, Pitt Bradford's campus is home to 1,600 students and about 10,000 alumni from across the entire country. The university offers 37 bachelor's degrees, 5 associate degrees, and more than 50 minors. For the last 9 consecutive years, Pitt Bradford has been ranked by the Princeton Review as one of the best colleges in the Northeast. Due to the university, local industries have greater access to scientific and technical expertise. Area residents have access to a growing number of jobs, and the region's economy has greatly benefited as a result. I offer my praise to the university's founders and the generations of school administrators, teachers, and students who have worked to turn this small campus into a renowned institution of higher learning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Texas seek recognition? For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the growing involvement of San Diego area schools and businesses in the Live Well San Diego initiative. Live Well San Diego engages the San Diego community from government, business, military, faith groups, and schools to improve the health, fitness, and safety of our residents. Preventable chronic diseases contribute to over 50% of deaths in the region, and Live Well San Diego is working to find innovative ways to reduce their impact and lower national health care costs in the long term. Through involvement with schools in my district, Live Well San Diego is reducing childhood obesity through daily physical education and recess breaks. Earlier this year, the San Diego North Chamber of Commerce joined with Live Well San Diego to educate area business owners about creating workplaces that focus on health and wellness. Clear Channel Communications has also partnered with Live Well San Diego to spread the word. Recently, the initiative launched a website, livewellsd.org, to give residents information to live healthier lives. Live Well San Diego is an example of how collaborative public-private partnerships are working to improve public health. I'm proud of the work that Live Well San Diego is doing for the people of San Diego County. Our residents are happier and healthier because of it. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize the 125 years of outstanding service and community involvement